Hello, I'm Minister Dove, and this is Freedom's Wings Ministries, Genesis chapter 10 and 11 tonight. Genesis chapter 10 and 11 tonight. And so, as I'm reading this, I want you to think about family, because we're going to discuss the genealogies of the history of the populations after Noah. So, the genealogies of the history of the populations after Noah, and how the earth regrouped its humanity, so to speak. And I want you to really seriously think, what is love? And what is God to you? And what were your ancestors' histories like? Who are you made up from your ancestors' history? And how are you a firm Christian? How are you a firm Christian? So let's read. Genesis chapter 10 and 11. These are the generations of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Marag, Medea, Jaha, Tubla, Masek, and Taras. The sons of Gomer, Eshkenaz, Repath, and Tugma. Now I'm reading from the Gideons Bible, and it's pretty much, it's a version formatted off of the King James, and so you can look into Genesis chapter 10 and see what I'm reading, and you can get the spelling of the words themselves, because I'm sure I'm not pronouncing most of them correctly, but we're working with it, right? And number 5 in chapter 10. From these, the coastland peoples spread in their lands, and each with his own language by their clans in their nations. Each with their own language by their clans and nations. So we're starting to see the earth is being redeveloped with populations after the sons of Noah. And we have our first languages starting to form with different societies. I can only imagine. Learning how to communicate in coming up with your own tongues. Learning how to communicate and coming up with your own tongues. When I say tongues, I don't mean the mumbo jumbo worship to God. I mean that they're coming up with their own language for survival and communication within their tribes. So let's see. The sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba, Hevlah, Sabbath, Ramah, and Sebekta. The sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. Cush fathered Nimrod. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. So we see hunting and taking up a form of society taking care of themselves, and they developing the communication. They're developing hunting and feeding themselves, and just a general how do you think this pleases God, to see that society, Noah did what God instructed him to do, and as a result God's earth is becoming repopulated, and the instructions of God were for us to be in control of the animals and of the birds and of the fish and of the sea. So, we see the first hunting here is established. Anyway, number 10. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Sarnah. From that land he went into Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Kala, and Racine between Nineveh and Kala, and is the great city. Egypt furthered Ledum, Enema, Lesbom, Nepathom, Pathalzum, Kaslam, from whom the Palestinians came, and Captorom. Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, in Heth, and the Jebusites and the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Havites, the Archites, the Sinanites, the Avaradites, and the Zeramites, and the Hemanites. Afterward, the clans of the Kenites disappeared, and the territory of Kenites extended from Sidon in the direction of Gera as far as Gaza, and in the direction of Sodom, Goma, Edma, and Zebulun as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham by their clans, their language, their lands, and their nations. So it is important for us to see this genealogy as to how we reestablish and how we live after the ark, in the flood and the storm and everything. These genealogies, it's the confusing, but if you just look at simple family terms and say this is the history after Noah and how God is helping us repopulate his earth, because God knows who's being born and who's not being born, and he is taking the blessings of creating those that are being born. So anyway, number 21, to Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, children were born. The sons of Shem, Elma, Asherah, Apocrast, Lud, and Arm. The sons of Arm, Uz, Hul, Gather, and Mash. Aprasht fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan fathered Elmaded, Shepha, Hezemiah, Jara, Hadam, Elzel, Dakala, Obla, Ebmela, Sheba, Ophrah, Helev, and Jahab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Okay, I have to turn the page here. Number 30. The territory in which they lived extended from Masha in the direction of Shepha to the hill country of the east. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. These are the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies in their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. So again, we see that we are repopulating and living in what is deemed an acceptable society to God as we follow him and take kindness in loving him back. We take kindness in loving him back as a population of society within this time frame. We are establishing communicative languages and various different cultures within various different aspects of the children that are being born. Anyway, let me read chapter 11. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Sharanah and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do, and nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. What they propose to do will now be impossible for them. So God is saying, thank you. Thank you for caring for my earth. Thank you for repopulating. Thank you for building a city. I am going to take care of you. See, the Lord is saying, I am going to take care of you. Don't have worries, don't have fears, I am going to take care of you. As he says, nothing is beyond their reach. as he says, nothing is beyond these people's reach. Number 7, come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. So it says, come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. So they don't actually continue to build the city. They disperse throughout the earth. And God says, well, they say to each other, we're going to come up with our own languages now. We're going to be said different populations, which communicate differently. And so we see the first global differences within language. And what's going to happen in a little bit, he's going to name the city Babel. Yep, right here in chapter 11, section 9, Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them all over the face of the earth. These are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood, and Shem lived after his father Arpachshad 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arpachshad had lived 35 years, he fathered Shelah. And Arpachshad lived after he fathered Shelah 403 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he fathered Eber. And Shelah lived after he fathered Eber 403 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg, P-E-L-E-G, Peleg. And Eber lived after he fathered Peleg 430 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he fathered. So we're seeing a pattern here. They're fathering children at 30 and 34 years old, but they're living to 400. They'll be in the 400s. Could you imagine that? Living up to 400. Now we have an expand of about 100, and we have all these medicines and all these technologies and everything. But what we have is not in comparison to what they had as following the Lord. What we have is not in comparison as to what they had to follow in the Lord. If you follow the Lord, you live forever. Forever and ever. Amen, it says, right? Now, what I mean by forever, I mean you have your general lifespan, yes, but your spirit carries on with how you were conducting yourself as within society when you lived. Your spirit carries on, and it says if we believe the word and Jesus, and we are one within Christ, we live a valuable, healthy, wholehearted, long life. And that's what we're seeing in these passages with the living up to 400, 500 years old. They had their faith within the Lord so strong that they just kept taking care of themselves, and they blessed themselves with long life within a relationship with the Lord. Where did I leave off? All right, I think I left off. I'm going to start with number 19. And Peleg lived after he fathered Reu 209 years, and had other sons and daughters. Okay, so number 18 says, when Peleg had lived 30 years, he fathered Reu. Number 19 says, and Peleg lived after he fathered Reu 209 years, and had other sons and daughters. 209 years, so we're starting to see the population go down a little bit now, as far as the age of years. When Reu had lived 32 years, he fathered Segrah. Again, 30 years. They're starting to form children at 30 years old. And Reu lived after he fathered Serug 207 years, and had other sons and daughters. But he lived to 200 now. So we're dropping from 400 down to 200. And then as we live now in modern day society, 100. When Sarai had lived 30 years, he fathered Nerah. And Sarai lived after he fathered Derah 200 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Nerah had lived 29 years, he fathered Terah. And Nerah lived after he fathered Terah 119 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Terah had lived 70 years, he fathered Abram, Norah, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah fathered Abraham, Norah, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his kindred in Ur of the Chaldrons. It's Chaldean. Childrons. And Abram and Noah took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nara's wife Milcah, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Isaac. Now Sarah was barren, she had no children. Terah took Abraham his son and Lot, the son of Haran, his generations, and Sarah and his daughter-in-law, his sons, Abraham's wife, and they went forth together from Ur to the Childrens, and it's not children, it's Childrens. It's Chaldean, Childrens, to go into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So again, we see as the population grows, the age of life goes down. As the population grows, the age of life goes down. But we still see an average of 200 years. It goes from 400 to 200. And the Lord, it's because they had strong faith and foundations within the Lord that they lived to take care of themselves for a long time. But we got to see, there must have been some doubts and some confusion and some worry and some deceptiveness being led by the devil for their age to go from 400 to 200s. But they still had a strong enough base that the love for life itself and God carried them to the 200s. The love for life itself and for God carried them to the 200s. They repopulated after the flood like the Lord wanted them to do so. And in this, like I said, we see the first form of hunting, the first form of cities, and the first form of different languages. God dispersed them throughout the world, and they said, well, we're going to leave the city and go out like God wants us to, but we're going to form our own different languages. So as the families were being born, different ways of communicating were being born as well. So we see the first language, we see the first hunting, we see the first establishing of cities through the increase of children. So, they're blessed. The world is blessed to be repopulating because God allowed it to, by having Noah save the generations. God allowed the earth to be blessed with people because he wanted it to. He said, I'm sorry for the mistake that I made with the flood. Let my people rejuvenate themselves. And they did. Many blessings, my friends. Many blessings.